The winter wind howled across the frozen river as the police cruiser skidded wildly on black ice, smashing through the guardrail and plunging into the dark water below. Officer Olivia Carter gasped as icy water flooded through shattered windows, her body seizing from the shocking cold. She kicked, desperately, breaking free from the sinking vehicle, dragging herself onto the snowy bank with trembling arms. A deep bark echoed through the storm. A German shepherd bounded toward her, teeth gently gripping her soaked jacket, pulling her further from the water's edge. Daniel Walker dropped his grocery bags, rushing forward to wrap his thick coat around the shivering officer, pulling her against his chest for warmth. He had no idea this moment would change everything for his small family forever. Daniel Walker had learned to live with ghosts. At 35, his broad shoulders carried more than just physical strength from his military days. They bore the weight of memories, of a life that ended 3 winters ago when his wife Sarah died in a car accident, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. His hands, once trained for combat, now braided 7-year-old Emily's hair each morning, packed her lunch with notes that made her giggle, and tucked her in with stories about brave princesses who saved kingdoms. Their small cabin on the edge of Pine Ridge felt both empty and full, haunted by absence, yet warmed by the fierce love between father and daughter. Daniel had rebuilt his life around routine and simplicity. Morning runs with Hunter, their loyal German shepherd. Breakfast at the worn wooden table, where Emily would chatter about school while sneaking bacon to the dog. His carpentry work in the garage, crafting furniture with the same precision he once applied to military operations. Evenings by the fireplace, Emily curled against him with a book, Hunter's head resting on their feet. He had become both mother and father, nurse and protector, his rough hands gentle when wiping away tears or applying band-aids to scraped knees. Emily Walker was sunshine in winter boots. At 7 years old, she possessed her mother's golden hair and her father's determined spirit. She wore a child-sized police costume more often than regular clothes, complete with a plastic badge she polished religiously. While other children played house or video games, Emily set up crime scenes with her stuffed animals, interrogating teddy bears with serious expressions that made Daniel hide his smiles behind coffee mugs. She understood loss in the way children do, through absence rather than presence. Mommy was in heaven, watching over them like a guardian angel. This truth lived alongside her belief in tooth fairies and Santa Claus, all part of the magical reality she inhabited. Emily filled their home with drawings of their family, always including her mother as an angel with enormous wings, hovering protectively above their heads. Hunter had been Sarah's dog first, a wedding gift Daniel had surprised her with 8 years ago. The German shepherd had grown from a clumsy puppy into a magnificent protector, 90 pounds of loyalty and intelligence. He seemed to understand the family's loss, becoming Emily's shadow after Sarah's death, sleeping outside her door, following her from room to room. His training as a search and rescue dog had been informal but effective, Daniel teaching him during their long hikes in the mountains. Hunter could find Emily anywhere, a game that started as fun but provided Daniel with deep comfort knowing his daughter had such a devoted guardian. Officer Olivia Carter represented everything Daniel's quiet life was not. At 28, she blazed through the police force with determination that impressed superiors and intimidated suspects. Her long brown blonde hair was always pulled back in a professional bun, her hazel eyes sharp and assessing. She had joined law enforcement to make a difference, inspired by her father's stories of justice and protection. But Olivia carried her own ghosts. 6 months ago, her partner had died in an ambush during what should have been a routine drug bust. She blamed herself for missing the signs, for not insisting they wait for backup. The guilt had transformed her from cautious to reckless, pursuing dangerous leads alone, pushing boundaries that worried her captain. Her current investigation into police corruption had led her to Pine Ridge, following whispers of a high-ranking officer involved in drug trafficking. The attack on the bridge had been no accident. Pine Ridge existed in that peculiar space between small town and forgotten wilderness. Population 3,000, it boasted one main street, 2 traffic lights, and endless forests that stretched toward mountains. Winter transformed it into a postcard. Snow softening harsh edges, ice turning trees into crystal sculptures. The town moved at its own pace, resistant to change, suspicious of outsiders. Daniel had chosen it specifically for its isolation after Sarah's death, needing space to grieve without well-meaning intrusions. Here, people nodded hello but didn't pry. Respected boundaries while still helping when needed. The local diner knew his order. The hardware store extended credit without asking. And the school principal understood when Emily had difficult days. It was a place where a broken man could slowly piece himself together, where a little girl could play in forests and feel safe, where a dog could run free and wild. Daniel's strong arms carried Olivia through the swirling snow toward his cabin, her body shaking violently against his chest. Hunter led the way, looking back repeatedly as if checking they were following. The warm glow from the windows promised safety, and Daniel shouldered open the door, bringing Winter and Crisis into his carefully ordered world. He set her gently on the couch before the crackling fireplace, his movements efficient and careful. Emily appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide with concern and curiosity. She had been coloring at the kitchen table, but the commotion drew her like a magnet. "Daddy, is she hurt?" Emily whispered, approaching slowly. Her little face showed no fear, only fascination at seeing a real police officer up close. Olivia's eyes fluttered open, focusing on the child's worried expression. Despite her chattering teeth, she managed a weak smile that made Emily beam in return. Daniel returned with thick blankets and hot tea, his military training evident in how quickly he assessed and responded to the situation. He wrapped Olivia carefully, professionally, his touch respectful but thorough. "You're safe now," he said quietly, his deep voice carrying reassurance that came from experience with Crisis. Olivia nodded, unable to speak through her shivering. Emily scooted closer, reaching out to touch the badge on Olivia's wet uniform with reverent fingers. "You're a real police officer," Emily breathed, awestruck. "A real lady police officer. I want to be just like you when I grow up." The innocent admiration in her voice seemed to reach through Olivia's shock, grounding her in the present moment. Hunter settled beside the couch, his watchful eyes never leaving Olivia's face, as if he had appointed himself her personal guardian. Daniel built up the fire while Emily peppered Olivia with questions she was still too cold to answer. How many bad guys had she caught? Did she have a police car with real sirens? Could she show Emily how to use handcuffs? Daniel gently redirected his daughter, suggesting she fetch more blankets from the closet, giving Olivia space to recover. When Emily scampered off, he knelt beside the couch, his expression serious. "That wasn't an accident, was it?" he asked quietly. Olivia's eyes widened, surprised by his perceptiveness. She shook her head slightly, and Daniel nodded as if he had expected this answer. "You're investigating something dangerous." It wasn't a question. His years in special forces had taught him to recognize when someone was being hunted. Olivia's hand moved instinctively to her jacket pocket, checking for something, relief flickering across her face when she found it still there. Emily returned with an armload of blankets and her favorite teddy bear, which she solemnly offered to Olivia. "Mr. Buttons helps when I'm scared or cold," she explained seriously. Olivia accepted the bear with genuine gratitude, touched by the child's generosity. Daniel made soup while Emily entertained their guest with stories about school, her best friend Maya, and Hunter's various heroic deeds. The domestic warmth wrapped around Olivia like another blanket, so different from her sparse apartment and solitary life. She found herself relaxing despite the danger that had driven her here, drawn into Emily's cheerful chatter and Daniel's quiet strength. As the evening wore on, and Olivia's shivering finally stopped, she knew she should leave, should call for backup, should report the attempt on her life. But something held her here in this warm cabin, with its mismatched furniture and walls covered in children's drawings. Perhaps it was Emily's absolute faith that police officers were heroes, or Daniel's steady presence that asked for nothing while offering everything. Or maybe it was Hunter, who had moved to rest his head on her feet, claiming her as part of his pack. Outside, the storm intensified, sealing them in this bubble of unexpected sanctuary. The next morning brought bright sunshine and complicated realities. Olivia woke on the couch to find Emily watching her from the floor, already dressed in her police costume. Daniel was making breakfast, the smell of coffee and bacon filling the small space. Everything felt surreal, dreamlike, until Olivia remembered the USB drive in her pocket and the danger it represented. She sat up quickly, immediately regretting the sudden movement as soreness flooded her body. Daniel appeared with coffee, his expression unreadable. "I should go," Olivia said, though her voice lacked conviction. Emily's face fell dramatically. "But you just got here. Daddy, tell her she has to stay for breakfast. It's the law," Emily proclaimed, making Daniel's mouth twitch in an almost smile. "I don't think that's actually a law, sweetheart," he said gently. But he looked at Olivia, something unspoken in his eyes. "Though you probably shouldn't drive until we check you for concussion, and your car is currently at the bottom of the river." The reality of her situation settled heavily. Olivia reached for her radio, finding it waterlogged and dead. Her phone had suffered the same fate. She was effectively stranded, cut off from her department, with evidence that could expose a conspiracy. Daniel seemed to read her rising panic. "No one knows you're here," he said calmly. "That could be a good thing, considering someone tried to kill you yesterday." His logic was sound, but Olivia bristled at the implication. "You think I should hide?" Her voice carried an edge of offended pride. "I'm a police officer. I don't hide from criminals." "No, but you also don't run into danger without backup or a plan," Daniel responded evenly. His military bearing became more pronounced, and Olivia found herself studying him more carefully. This wasn't just some rural carpenter who had happened to save her. There was training there. Experience with danger. Emily watched the adults with growing concern. "Are you arguing?" "Please, don't argue. Daddy never argues with anyone." She moved to stand between them, her small face determined. "Officer Olivia is our guest. Mommy always said guests are special." The mention of Emily's mother shifted something in the room's atmosphere. Daniel's expression softened, and Olivia noticed the wedding ring he still wore. Her defensiveness melted as she recognized a fellow member of the Walking Wounded, someone carrying loss like a physical weight. "You're right, Emily," Olivia said gently. "I'm sorry. Your daddy is just trying to help." Emily brightened immediately, grabbing Olivia's hand to pull her toward the kitchen table. Throughout breakfast, Olivia found herself watching Daniel and Emily's easy interaction. The way he automatically cut her pancakes into bite-sized pieces while listening to her elaborate story about a butterfly she had seen. How Emily unconsciously leaned into him while eating, completely secure in his presence. The gentle corrections when she talked with her mouth full, delivered with patient humor. This was a father who had learned to be everything for his child, and somehow made it look natural. But even as she admired their bond, suspicion crept in. How had Daniel happened to be at exactly the right place to save her? Why did he live so isolated from town? What kind of carpenter had the build and alertness of a soldier? When he caught her studying him, his expression grew guarded. "You're wondering if I'm involved," he stated bluntly, after Emily ran off to play with Hunter. Olivia didn't deny it. "It's quite a coincidence," she said carefully. Daniel's jaw tightened, the first real emotion she had seen him display. "I live here because my wife died, and I needed somewhere quiet to raise my daughter. I was at the river because it's on the way home from the grocery store. I saved you because that's what decent people do." His voice remained level, but there was hurt beneath the words. "If you want to leave, I'll drive you to town right now." The revving of engines interrupted their quiet battle. Hunter burst from Emily's room, barking urgently. Through the window, Olivia watched 3 black sedans pull up, her stomach sinking. She recognized the lead vehicle, knew who would step out before the door opened. Captain Morrison, her direct supervisor, emerged with several officers she didn't recognize. Their positioning was tactical, suspicious. "Those are cops," Daniel observed, his body tensing. "But you're not happy to see them. It wasn't a question." Olivia shook her head slowly, hand moving to her pocket again. "Emily," Daniel called, his voice carrying new authority. "Remember our camping game? Time to play." Emily appeared immediately, her face serious as she nodded. Without question, she went to a closet and pulled out a backpack, already prepared. Daniel's paranoia suddenly seemed less paranoid. "Officer Carter," Morrison's voice boomed through a megaphone. "We know you're in there. Come out slowly." "We're here to help." The words sounded reasonable, but Olivia heard the lie beneath them. These weren't rescuers. They were hunters. "Back door?" she asked Daniel quickly. He shook his head. "They'll have it covered." Military Tactics 101. He moved to a trunk beside the fireplace, pulling out items with practiced efficiency. But they don't know about the root cellar. Daniel lifted the rug near the kitchen, revealing a hidden trapdoor. Emily climbed down without hesitation, clearly familiar with this escape route. Hunter followed, then Olivia. Daniel came last, pulling the rug back in place as he descended. The cellar was more than a hiding spot. It was a tunnel that led to the forest behind the house. As they moved through the darkness, Olivia realized Daniel Walker was definitely more than he appeared. But right now, he might be the only person she could trust. They emerged in the dense forest as shouts erupted from the cabin. Daniel led them along paths invisible to Olivia's eyes, Emily riding on his shoulders while Hunter ranged ahead. Despite the danger, Emily remained calm, trained for this somehow. It broke Olivia's heart to think why a 7-year-old would need such training. They moved for an hour before Daniel stopped at what looked like a random cluster of rocks, but revealed another hidden shelter, this one stocked with supplies. "Who are you really?" Olivia demanded once they were safely inside. Daniel set Emily down, pulling out water and energy bars. "Sergeant Daniel Walker, retired. Special Forces," he answered simply. "I thought I had left all this behind when Sarah died." His eyes moved to Emily, who was sharing her energy bar with Hunter. "But old habits die hard. I prepare for worst-case scenarios. Why should I trust you?" Olivia pressed. Daniel met her gaze steadily. "Because my daughter thinks you're a hero, and I won't let her lose another person she admires." The raw honesty in his voice cut through her suspicion. "And because whoever wants you dead won't stop until they succeed. You need help, whether you want it or not." Olivia pulled out the USB drive, holding it up. "This contains evidence that Captain Morrison and half the command structure are running drugs through the department. They've been using police resources to eliminate competition, protect shipments." She laughed bitterly. "I thought I was being so careful, but they knew the whole time." "Daddy? Are those bad police?" Emily asked, her voice small. The idea that police could be bad clearly shook her worldview. Daniel pulled her close. "Sometimes people pretend to be good when they're not, baby. But Officer Olivia is trying to stop them. That makes her the real hero." Emily nodded solemnly, moving to sit beside Olivia. "Don't worry, Daddy can protect you. He protected lots of people before Mommy went to heaven. He has medals and everything." The simple faith in her voice moved something in Olivia's chest. "We need to get that evidence to someone trustworthy," Daniel said, already thinking tactically. "FBI would be best, but the nearest field office is 3 hours away. They'll have roadblocks by now." "I have a contact," Olivia said slowly. "Agent Sullivan. But my phone is dead, and going to any police station would be suicide." Daniel stood, moving to another supply cache. "I have a satellite phone. Untraceable." He handed it to her, then busied himself checking weapons he had stored. Real weapons, not hunting rifles. Olivia made her call while Daniel equipped himself with quiet efficiency. Emily watched everything with 2 knowing eyes. Night fell as they prepared to move. The plan was simple: get to the abandoned ranger station where Agent Sullivan would meet them. It should have been easy with Daniel's knowledge of the forest, but Morrison had brought in tracking dogs. The sound of barking grew closer as they navigated the dark woods. Hunter growled low, sensing the other dogs approaching. Daniel made a decision that went against every protective instinct. "Take Emily and go," he told Olivia, handing her his daughter's hand. "Hunter knows the way. I'll buy you time." Emily immediately protested, clinging to her father. "No, Daddy, you promised. You promised you would never leave me." Her desperate cries tore at both adults. Daniel knelt, cupping his daughter's face. "I'm not leaving, baby. I'm just going to slow them down, then I'll catch up. Officer Olivia will keep you safe." He looked at Olivia, trusting her with everything that mattered. Promise me. I promise, Olivia vowed, though the words felt like swallowing glass. She lifted Emily, who fought against her, reaching for Daniel. He kissed his daughter's forehead, whispered something in her ear that made her stop struggling, then melted into the darkness. The next 20 minutes were the longest of Olivia's life. Emily clung to her, silent tears soaking Olivia's shoulder while Hunter led them through the forest. Behind them, gunfire erupted, the sound making Emily flinch. But she didn't cry out. This child who had learned too young that sometimes silence meant survival. They reached the ranger station just as headlights appeared on the access road. Olivia's hand went to her weapon, then relaxed as she recognized Agent Sullivan's face. But her relief was short-lived. Daniel should have been here by now. We have to go back. Emily suddenly broke free, running toward the forest. Olivia caught her just as Daniel emerged from the tree line, limping but alive. Emily flew into his arms, and he held her tight, his eyes meeting Olivia's over his daughter's head. Blood seeped through a tear in his jacket. "Just a graze," he said before she could ask. Agent Sullivan quickly ushered them into an armored vehicle, teams of FBI agents spreading out to secure the area. As they drove away, Olivia found herself holding Daniel's hand. Emily seated between them. The little girl had one hand on Hunter's head and the other clutching both adults, as if she could keep them safe through sheer will. The next months passed in a blur of testimony, trials, and transformation. Morrison and 12 other officers were convicted. The drug ring dismantled. Olivia became the reluctant hero of a national news story, offered positions with federal agencies and big city departments. But she found herself returning to Pine Ridge, to the small cabin where a little girl waited in a police costume, to the man who had risked everything for a stranger. Daniel had resisted at first. He had built walls around his heart as sturdy as the furniture he crafted, convinced that loving again meant risking pain Emily couldn't survive. But Olivia was patient the way she had been with her investigation, gathering evidence of their connection, building her case slowly. She brought Emily books about female police officers, taught her real defensive moves instead of movie tricks. She helped with homework at the kitchen table, learned to braid hair from YouTube videos when Daniel's fingers proved too clumsy. The moment everything changed came on an ordinary Tuesday. Emily had fallen at school, splitting her lip badly enough to need stitches. The hospital called Daniel, but he was on a construction site 2 hours away. They called Olivia next, listed as Emily's emergency contact. She had raced to the school, held Emily's hand through the stitches, sang silly songs to distract from the pain. When Daniel arrived, frantic with worry, he found them in the hospital cafeteria. Emily was showing off her stitches to anyone who would look while Olivia helped her eat ice cream. She was so brave, Olivia told him. And Emily beamed through her swollen lip. Olivia said I was tougher than any criminal she ever arrested, Emily announced proudly. Daniel looked between them, his daughter and this woman, who had somehow become essential to their lives. His walls didn't crumble, they simply dissolved, no longer needed. That night, after Emily was asleep, Daniel found Olivia on the porch, watching stars through the clear mountain air. Hunter lay at her feet, a position of complete acceptance. Daniel sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Sarah would have liked you," he said quietly, the first time he had spoken his wife's name to anyone but Emily in years. "She always said I needed someone who could challenge me. I think I would have liked her too," Olivia replied softly. "She raised an amazing man and loved an incredible little girl into existence." They sat in comfortable silence, no need for dramatic declarations. Love had grown between them like the forest around the cabin, patient and persistent, roots deep and branches reaching toward light. When Daniel finally kissed her, it felt like coming home after a long, difficult journey. Emily discovered them the next morning, curled together on the couch where Olivia had first recovered from the icy river. Instead of surprise, her face showed satisfaction, as if a plan had come together. "Does this mean Olivia can stay forever?" she asked hopefully. Daniel and Olivia exchanged glances, a whole conversation in a look. "Would you like that?" Daniel asked carefully. Emily nodded so enthusiastically that Hunter barked in alarm. "Yes." Then I would have a mommy who is also a police officer, which is way cooler than Maya's mom who just makes cupcakes. She paused, considering. Though maybe Olivia could learn to make cupcakes too. The domesticity that followed felt both foreign and natural. Olivia kept her apartment in town, but spent most nights at the cabin. She taught Emily to properly clean and maintain her toy handcuffs, helped Daniel repair the roof after a storm, learned Hunter's various barks and what they meant. The town watched with approval, as their wounded warrior and hero cop built something new from the ashes of their losses. There were challenges, of course. Nightmares that woke one or both adults. Emily's moments of missing her mother, conflicting with her love for Olivia. Daniel's fear whenever Olivia went on duty. The echo of old loss. Olivia's struggle to balance career ambitions with this unexpected family, but they faced each challenge together, stronger for their individual scars. The photo that would later sit on their mantle was taken at the town's 4th of July picnic. Emily wore her police costume despite the heat, positioned between Daniel and Olivia on a checkered blanket. Hunter had photobombed at the last second, his head appearing over Olivia's shoulder. They were all laughing at something Emily had said, natural and unposed. Behind them, the American flag caught the breeze, and the mountains rose like protective walls. It was a picture of a family that shouldn't exist, brought together by violence but held together by choice. Fall arrived with its brilliant colors, and Emily started second grade with a new confidence. She still wanted to be a police officer, but now she also wanted to be a carpenter like Daddy, and maybe a soldier too. Her teacher called it ambitious. Daniel called it possible. Olivia called it perfect. The investigation that had brought them together felt like another lifetime, though Olivia kept the USB drive in a safety deposit box, a reminder that good could come from evil, that sometimes nearly drowning led to swimming stronger. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table Emily had helped set with her best dishes, she looked at Olivia seriously. "My friend Tommy says you can't be my real mom because you didn't born me." Emily's grammar suffered when she was emotional, but I told him that real moms are the ones who stay and love you even when you're cranky or have bad dreams. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. She didn't try to hide. "That's exactly right, sweetheart. So you're my real mom who came late," Emily concluded with 7-year-old logic. Like when Amazon delivers the wrong package first but then brings the right one. Daniel choked on his water while Olivia laughed through her tears. Winter came around again, the anniversary of so many changes. The river had frozen over, and sometimes Olivia stood at the spot where Daniel had pulled her from the water. It felt like standing at the place where one life ended and another began. The woman who had gone into that river had been alone, driven, convinced that justice was worth any personal sacrifice. The woman who emerged had learned that justice without love was hollow, that saving the world meant nothing if you had no world of your own to return to. Daniel found her there on a snowy afternoon while Emily was at school. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her head. "Regrets?" he asked quietly. Olivia leaned back into his warmth. "Never." "You?" He was quiet for a moment, and she could feel him choosing words. "Sarah saved my life once. In Afghanistan. Not literally. But she gave me a reason to come home. To be more than a weapon. When she died, I thought that was it for me. Just exist for Emily until she didn't need me anymore." His arms tightened around her. "Then you crashed into our lives, literally, and suddenly existing wasn't enough anymore." They stood together watching the water flow beneath the ice. Two people who had learned that love wasn't just something you fell into like a river. Sometimes it was something that pulled you out, dried you off, and wrapped you in warmth you didn't know you needed. Christmas morning in the cabin was chaos. Emily had woken them at 5, too excited to wait. Hunter wore felt antlers that he kept trying to shake off. The tree Daniel and Emily had cut themselves leaned slightly to the left, decorated with a mix of Sarah's old ornaments and new ones Olivia had bought. Emily's stocking, stuffed by both adults in a midnight collaboration, spilled onto the floor. But the best moment came when Emily handed Olivia a crudely wrapped present she had hidden behind the couch. "I made it myself," she announced proudly. Daddy only helped a little with the spelling. Inside was a certificate drawn in crayon and marker, decorated with stickers of police badges and hearts. It read, "Official Mom License for Olivia Carter. You are hereby authorized to be Emily Walker's mom, forever and always. Signed, Emily Susan Walker, age 7 3/4. Below Emily's careful signature was a paw print from Hunter and Daniel's neat handwriting. Witnessed and approved by Daniel Walker. Dad. Olivia couldn't speak. She pulled Emily into a fierce hug, meeting Daniel's eyes over their daughter's head. Their daughter. The word settled into her heart like it had always belonged there. The proposal came where it had to, by the frozen river on a clear February day. Daniel had suggested a walk. Just the two of them, while Emily was at a sleepover. Olivia had suspected nothing until they reached the exact spot where they had met. Daniel turned to face her, pulling off his gloves to take her hands. A year ago, Hunter pulled you from this river, and I thought I was just saving a stranger. But you saved us right back. You gave Emily a hero to believe in, and showed me that my heart wasn't as broken as I thought. He dropped to one knee in the snow, pulling out a simple silver ring with a single sapphire. Olivia Carter. Will you marry me? Will you officially join our messy, complicated, perfect family? Through her tears, Olivia saw Hunter sitting beside Daniel, a matching ring box tied to his collar. She laughed and cried simultaneously. Did you really teach the dog to be part of your proposal? She asked, wonderfully exasperated. Emily insisted. She's actually hiding in those trees with binoculars. Daniel grinned as a small voice carried across the snow. Say yes already. It's cold out here. Yes, Olivia called out. Then softer. Just for Daniel. Yes to all of it. To you. To Emily. To Hunter. To forever. Emily burst from the trees, running full speed to crash into them both, sending all three tumbling into the snow. Hunter joined the pile, tail wagging furiously, and for a moment, they were just a tangle of limbs and laughter and love on the frozen ground where it had all began. The wedding was small, perfect for a family that had learned to treasure quiet moments over grand gestures. The ceremony took place in the old chapel at the edge of town, its wooden walls glowing warm in candlelight. Emily stood as maid of honor, taking her duties seriously in a dress she had picked out herself, powder blue to match her eyes. Hunter wore a bow tie and carried the rings, trained for weeks to walk slowly down the aisle without investigating the guests. Daniel waited at the altar in his dress uniform, medals he never wore gleaming in the soft light. When Olivia appeared in the doorway, elegant in simple white, his eyes filled with tears he didn't try to hide. She walked herself down the aisle, strong and sure, because she was not being given away. She was choosing, just as he was choosing, just as they had chosen each other in 1,000 small moments since that icy river. The vows they had written themselves spoke of second chances and unexpected gifts. Of loving not in spite of past wounds, but because of the strength those wounds had revealed. Emily stood between them, holding both their hands as they promised not just to love each other, but to honor the family they had already become. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Emily cheered so loudly that Hunter howled in response, and the solemn moment dissolved into laughter. Daniel kissed his bride while their daughter danced around them, and their dog wagged his tail hard enough to knock over a flower arrangement. The reception was held at the town diner, transformed with white lights and paper flowers Emily had made in art class. The wedding cake, slightly lopsided because Emily had insisted on helping, tasted perfect. Daniel's military friends mingled with Olivia's colleagues from the force, two worlds joining as naturally as their lives had merged. As the evening wound down, Olivia found herself outside for a moment of quiet. The stars were brilliant in the clear sky, and she could hear laughter from inside the diner. A hand touched her shoulder, and she turned to find Agent Sullivan, who had made the drive to attend. "You did good, Carter," he said simply. "Or should I say Walker now?" "Walker," she confirmed, loving how it sounded. "Olivia, Walker. That evidence you brought us changed everything. Saved a lot of lives. Stopped a lot of drugs from hitting the streets." He paused, studying her. "Any regrets about not taking that federal position? You could have had any posting you wanted." Olivia looked through the window to where Daniel was dancing with Emily on his feet, both of them laughing as Hunter tried to join in. Her family, her choice. "Not a single one," she said firmly. I found what I was really looking for. Later, as they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, a weekend at a nearby resort while Emily stayed with friends, their daughter pulled them both down to her level for a serious conversation. "Now that you're married, everything is official, right?" she asked. When they nodded, she continued. "So if someone asks, I can say I have a mom and dad? Not a dad and a stepmom, but a real mom?" "Absolutely," Olivia said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm your real mom in every way that matters." Emily nodded, satisfied, then added with 7-year-old practicality, "Good. Because I already told everyone at school that my mom is a police officer hero who catches bad guys and marries handsome soldiers." As they drove away, cans tied to Daniel's truck and "Just Married" painted on the window, courtesy of his military buddies, Olivia reached over to take her husband's hand. In the rearview mirror, she could see Emily and Hunter watching from the diner porch, surrounded by friends who had become family. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" Daniel asked, bringing her hand to his lips. "For being at that river. For saving me in more ways than one." "Thank you for needing to be saved," he replied. "And for saving us right back." The road ahead stretched out before them, leading home to their cabin in the woods where 3 lives had become one family, where a soldier found peace, a cop found purpose beyond the badge, and a little girl found that sometimes prayers for a mommy are answered in the most unexpected ways. The winter snow had melted into spring, seasons changing as they would continue to change. But their love, tested by ice and forged in fire, would remain constant through whatever storms or sunshine lay ahead.